Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really pleased to be here. Thank you for the lovely introduction. So I have kind of an interesting background at Google that I hope will kind of help you understand why I'm bringing some of the insights that I am today. So I actually work in the Google Global Business Organization, and I work with education advertisers. So trying to use Google tools and products, specifically advertising, to recruit new students, get their educational mission out to the public. And so a lot of what I'll share with you today comes through that lens of what I do. But I additionally work with the Google for Nonprofits program, very heavily on the AdWords advertising side, but also using some of the other products, maps, apps, One Today, a lot of those different products. So I'm hoping that I can give you a very worldly view of the Google for Nonprofits program, but specifically through the lens of technology. So today I'm going to talk in kind of two parts. First, how technology is changing absolutely everything, from the way we live, to the way that we consume, to the way that businesses need to provide for their consumers and users. And then in the second piece, in the context of this technology, what does that mean for us as businesses and organizations? Please stop me at any time for questions. I'm happy to take them throughout the little speech, if you will. And I've also left time at the end. So, does anyone remember the show The Jetsons? Yeah. Great show, right? And it seemed so wild and far off. There were robots, there was space travel, there was like tiny pills of food. But what I want to kind of impart to you today is that things that seem very futuristic really are not that far off. So as a first example, has anyone heard of Google Fiber? Right. I was afraid I was going to pick things that everyone had heard about, like, okay, boring. Google Fiber is a project that started last fall, I believe, in Kansas City, where Google went and brought fiber optic cables, which is now delivering bandwidth 200 times faster than the average internet connection in the rest of the United States. I mean, that's like lightning fast. You download something, it's there. If you want to upload something, it's in the cloud. So with this kind of computing speed and just the internet access, imagine what that means for people and how quickly they can get information, how quickly they can watch videos, how fast they can download files. So that's the first thing that I think is really interesting, and things that we thought were maybe in the future, as we were sitting there dialing up our modems to get onto AOL, it's here. Another example, what if you didn't have to drive your car anymore? It drove you. Driverless cars, they're actually here. So Google has done a project called Project Chauffeur, where we've started having basically computer-driven cars. They're out in California. They've already driven 400,000 miles without an accident. Pretty amazing, right? Again, it's here, where it's not available for us to go out and buy yet, but I imagine that this is something that we're going to see in our daily lives very soon. Have any Gmail and Android users? Yes, all right. So if you've ever used Google Now, it's kind of like having your own personal robot. So you give permission for Google Now to access kind of your email, your calendar, it looks at your old searches, and it delivers you information. So rather than you having to look up this morning, for example, what was the weather in Washington, D.C., Google Now told me, hey Meredith, it's cold, put a coat on. Later today, when I need to take a train back to New York City, I'm not going to have to be searching for my train times or how long it's going to take me to get to Union Station. Google Now will tell me, your train is at 1:30 p.m. because it knows in my calendar, and then it's going to tell me based on traffic, I need to allow a taxi 10 minutes to get there. I'll probably walk because it is very close. I'm not that lazy. Finally, has anyone experimented with Google Glass, had the opportunity to see it? It's a wearable computer. So instead of lugging around your laptop, you can literally take these glasses, they connect to the internet through your phone, and just by voice command, you can start asking it for email, you can look something up, You can watch videos, and this is the beginning. We're just starting to ask app developers to start giving context and developing new ideas for this platform. Another crazy example that didn't make this slide, has anyone heard of Project Loon? This, I think, is really fantastic. Google's also developed something, we're using hot air balloons to deliver Wi-Fi in parts of the world that don't have that infrastructure. So millions of people in the world are now getting internet access where they had nothing before, thanks to these balloons in the sky. Pretty crazy, right? So all very seemingly futuristic, but they're available in the here and now. So, Moore's Law, which I'm admittedly not a computer person, so this is all new to me. But Moore's Law states that computing power doubles roughly 18 to 24 months. So, today that means a lot more than just your CPU. It's Google phones, it's things like Google Glass, it's things like tablets and phablets. All around, we're seeing the effects of Moore's Law. When I think of this, I think of three major technology platforms that are really coming together to make this huge difference in the world. The first is just the internet. It makes the world's information available to pretty much everybody. Second, mobile computing makes that internet access available anytime, anywhere, 24/7. And finally, cloud computing really allows infinite computing power to anyone, whenever they want, for a relatively cheap price. So the three of those things really mean, with all of this information and power given to us, things are evolving faster than we actually think. So this is actually a graph which shows how fast consumers adopt technology. And this is really important in the context of who you're trying to speak to, new people that you're trying to get involved in your organization. So the bottom here is the iPod, which was launched in 2001. And in the first 2 years, it sold 1 million units. The iPhone in 2007, in 2 years, sold 20 million units. And in 2010, the iPad, in 2 years, 68 million units. So the theme of this is speed. How fast people are moving to adopt new technology, and also really importantly, what that means for businesses and how fast they have to then create technology for consumers to get. Think of how often you trade in your mobile phone, right? Like it used to be once every 5 years, and now every year I'm thinking, this thing is so slow, I need a new one. I think, I hate to throw out this cautionary tale, but I think it is important to kind of think of businesses and organizations. When I was in high school, the one place that my parents would really allow me to go on my own and take the car was Blockbuster. And I was allowed to go and rent a video and come home. Blockbuster, which is very near and dear to my heart, they did not embrace the technology that was happening around them. So things like Redbox popped up, and then Netflix took over, and even things like YouTube where you can watch really quick little videos online for free. They didn't embrace this, and now they're closing the doors to their stores, which I think is really sad, but it is a lesson to be learned that if you're not paying attention to the technology around you and what people are using, you're going to fall behind and be forgotten. Okay, in addition to speed and acceleration of adoption, there's a platform shift underway. So this is a photo of St. Peter's Square in 2005 when Pope John Paul was laid to rest. This is 2013 when Pope Francis was announced earlier this year. Crazy, absolutely crazy. So one thing to remember is devices and computers, they're not just things you collect anymore, they're part of you. So they're the lens through which you're now viewing the world. I'm guilty of it too. I went away this weekend, and the entire time, I'm pretty sure I saw the city of New Orleans like this. Video and photo. So this is important because the smartphone specifically is not just a device on how people get things done or how they search or send email. It's become a part of people. It's always on, 24/7, closer than 10 feet. I think this is a really interesting and somewhat sad stat. This is a survey that was done actually in 2011, so even longer ago. What are people willing to give up to keep their smartphones? 43% said beer. 36% said chocolate. People really like their smartphones. So with this platform shift and the smartphone and the mobile tablets taking over, it's made the internet access and people always on to just be the new reality. So for most people, if you're awake, you're online. How many of you pick up your phones before you even brush your teeth? Before you even get out of bed? Especially if you use it as your alarm clock. So look at what has happened to people's consumption and just habits over the last, this is I believe 4 years. And I use social media as an example just because it's something that we don't really consider technology, but rather just kind of a human connection. So YouTube went up from 1 billion views a day in 2009 to 4 billion in 2012. Facebook users up 233%, and minutes per user more than doubled. And then tweets per day went up from 2.5 million in 2009 to 340 million in 2012. Then if you think about things like Pinterest and Instagram, Pinterest didn't even exist in 2009. It has 23 million users now. And Instagram started in 2010 and now has 100 million monthly users. Now, I think this is really interesting because what has enabled this crazy boom of social media is mobile. So people can get connected all the time, very quickly. The percent of searches from mobile actually doubles year over year and is up 5x every 2 years. So think about this. People are online all the time, living their lives. To consumers, there's no longer a distinction between online and offline. It's just life. So there was a recent Forrester survey. People actually who were surveyed said they spend less time online, but in the actual tracking survey, they spend a lot more time online. I think that's interesting because people don't think of themselves as being online anymore. It's just what they're doing, how they're getting information, how they're connecting with people. It's become so natural that it's normal behavior. So, also thanks to mobile devices, or not thanks to mobile devices, another shift that's happening is businesses no longer have the best technology. So this is a graph of IP traffic, not the greatest illustration, but this is basically showing businesses' IP traffic kind of growing, that of consumers has blown up. So really, consumers now have the best technology, the best toys, and it's up to businesses and organizations and even governments to keep up with what they're expecting. Now, because the web is now a way of life and not an option, our expectations, just as people, consumers, and users, has really changed. You want to get something in one click. You want overnight shipping. You want Wi-Fi on your flight. You want 24-hour service. You want the web to give you an answer to something in about a quarter second. So we're becoming much more demanding as a population thanks to technology. And I'd like to kind of break this into 3 ideas. The first, we think of things, we want them to be fast and simple, engaging, and tailored to me. So this is an example. I don't know if anyone's seen this on Gmail. We rolled Google Wallet into Gmail so that with just the click of a button, you can send money to somebody. Just type in their email address, $, I can send BenLink $20, send a nonprofit money very easily. And this was, we thought the Chase app was cool where you could send money, or even the, I think it's Bank of America, where you take a photo of your check and it deposits it automatically. Really great, right? We made it even simpler. You don't even have to be aligned with a certain bank to use this feature. So that was an example of fast. Here's an example of tailored. If anyone uses Uber, it's kind of catching on in New York. We have a lot of yellow cabs. But this allows you to, using an app on your mobile phone, contact a driver who's a licensed professional driver and say, I'm at the corner of, I don't know DC well enough. I'm going to say 14th and 9th Avenue, which is where our office is, and I need a cab. It's raining, there are no yellow cabs. Uber is then going to locate the nearest driver. They send the signal out to them, and then they text you and say, your driver, I think this is Simon, is going to be there in however many minutes, and he has a rating of 4 stars. Your car comes. So think about that not only from the perspective of the consumer, how great, but also the businesses. So now there's pressure on the New York yellow cab system, for example, to come up with a similar system, because who wants to stand out there in the rain waving their hand for half an hour? So that's another example of how technology has pushed consumers forward, and thus is pushing businesses forward as well. I also want to show you this. So like I said, I work with education advertisers, and education is kind of near and dear to my heart. I think of it as being very traditional in a sense. You know, you go to school for 12 years, you're in a classroom, and that's just no longer the case. So technology is touching all sorts of areas and industries where we might not have thought that it would. An example of fast education, so over here on the left, this is Google plus Hangout. And this is an MIT professor who has decided to no longer hold his office hours in person, but rather over Hangout. So it's a video conference. People can drop in as needed, ask their question, get their answer, and then drop out. For something tailored, sorry, did I hear a question? No? Okay. Okay, so I don't want to ignore anybody. For a tailored experience in education, adaptive learning has really become a huge idea. So MOOCs, massive online open courses, so I don't know if you've heard of Coursera, Udacity, they're actually taking it a step further, and adaptive learning allows people to kind of select the technology and push them forward in their learning. So let's say I'm taking an online math class, and at the end of the little lesson, a quiz pops up and I get it wrong. The adaptive technology platform knows, okay, Meredith didn't really understand this. We're going to go back in the lesson, have her rewatch a video or something. Or if I get it right, the adaptive technology platform knows, okay, she understands this, we can move forward with the lesson. So think about that in the context of a classroom and how easy it makes it on teachers to really understand where their students are and help them along and really learn things as opposed to just float through. And finally, for engaging, has anyone heard of the Khan Academy? Yes. I'm just in awe of Sokol, what this has become in a few short years. So for those that don't know, I'll show you an example again later, but basically it started as a very small, I guess, movement where Sokol started uploading educational videos on YouTube. He was trying to teach his niece, I believe it was math, he was tutoring her, and it's now become this huge collection of videos. But what's really engaging about it is it's not just somebody standing here talking, giving a math lesson, but rather it's a lot of annotations and showing the problems. He's using like a pen, putting it on the video. So how much more engaging and easy to understand is that kind of video and learning experience than just a classroom lecture? So where does this leave all of us? Been a little turned upside down. As a side note, this is a piece of art in northern Germany. It's called The World Stands on Its Head. Not only is the house built upside down, but everything in it is as well. And for the construction workers who were building it, it was so disorienting, they could only work in 3-hour shifts. So, taking what we've kind of covered in this past section, it can be really confusing. But I think when you have this embracing of technology and kind of understanding why it is that things are changing, it makes it much easier for you and your businesses and your organizations to adapt. So, based on the insights and the data that I've kind of shared, here are some questions that I would encourage you to look at just to kind of get you thinking about your organization. So, is digital embedded in your strategy? Are you moving at internet speed? Are you present in the moments that matter? As everyone's online, are you there? Are you engaging users and creating advocates? Are you breaking boundaries across channels? And are you fostering a fast and agile organization? I think these seem really daunting, and I work with some large advertisers, and I think even they struggle with some of these things. I think a lot of technology companies even struggle with some of these ideas. But having it in the back of your mind and having that spirit of technology will help to move you forward. So, to that end, one of Google's missions is to make the web work for you. We kind of get the web, so we want to put tools out there that really help people embrace all of this technology and use it to their advantage. So, we kind of put these in 3 buckets: make better decisions using data, go bigger and faster, and then win the moments that matter, which is really a question of your presence. So specifically Google for Nonprofits, it was started in 2011 to kind of serve as a centralized hub for all of our free or highly discounted tools. It's really simple. Once you're admitted to the program, you then kind of select which tools and platforms you'd like to enroll in, and then you just start using them. So some examples. Apps allow a business to run on its own domain, but it's basically using Google's technology. So you could still be an @nonprofit.org, and it looks like it's very much your own business or your own organization, but it's running on our technology, so you don't ever have to worry about your servers going down. Maps and Earth Pro, if anyone's using them, they're actually free and available to anybody, and they have a lot of sub-products. But depending on the scale of your organization, you can actually get some additional software and developer grants through the nonprofits program. AdWords grants, this is my favorite bit. They're available to nonprofits. You get actually $10,000 per month of free search advertising. So you can drive people to your website, drive them to a telephone number using our AdWords kind of search technology. YouTube for Nonprofits is slightly different than YouTube, which is free to consumers, but it has some kind of added features for nonprofits. There's video annotations, donation campaigns, and you can take advantage of those as a nonprofit. And then One Today is a micro-donation Android app on mobile phones, and it just launched in April 2013, so it's kind of new and exciting. We also have products like Google Plus and Analytics, which again, they're not specific to nonprofits, but they're something that I would encourage you to look into, and again, they're free for everybody.
Can you just elaborate on AdWords grants? As nonprofits, we're always looking for opportunities like that. You said $10,000?
$10,000 a month. Yep.
So what do we do?
So the first thing to do to get involved in Google for Nonprofits, and I'll flash the URL up a little later, you enroll in the program. We kind of vet out your qualifications as a 501c3. Once you're enrolled as a Google for Nonprofits participant, you then can select different products that you want to actually take part of. So you may decide, actually, we don't have a need for maps, but we do have a need for advertising. So you may enroll specifically in the AdWords grants. And then AdWords is just the platform that we use to access the advertising space on Google.com, so our search network. And then you have that $10,000 to really decide what keywords you want to use. I could go on all day about that, I won't bore you. It's basically $10,000 to use on our search network for advertising. Yeah, it's fantastic. The advertisers pay a lot, so take advantage of that. So what I wanted to do, and I'll check my time, I think I'm good. Some of these, yes?
I was just thinking about, is there a, you being in education advertising, are the education advertisers connecting with students through Google? Is there like Google for students or educators?
We have quite a few. Google and Education is a huge program. It's interesting because I would say a lot of our advertisers are actually for-profit, but we work a lot with, for example, K through 12, and there are a lot of programs For instance, trying to get Google products and tools to teachers so that they feel more comfortable using technology in the classroom. We do a lot of things for students as well, things like the Google Science Fair, if you've ever heard of that. I encourage you all to go out and look at the Google Science Fair. Children are absolutely brilliant. There was I believe an 17 or 18-year-old girl won last year because she's working on a cure for cancer. Like, fantastic. So we do a lot of those kind of programs, and then a lot, my role is to help advertisers specifically use products, but then we do a lot just in general for the students and the K through 12 teachers.
Has the shift changed where education advertisers now see the importance of direct connection with the students more than with the schools? I imagine it used to be, you get eyeballs through school things, and now they just have it directly onto their...
Yeah, well, we actually work with a lot of online education groups, and there are quite a few. I mentioned the MOOCs, Udacity, and Coursera. There is no physical school location. Everything is online. The teachers are communicating online. So I would say there is a big shift. Some faster than others. So at this point, I want to show kind of some examples of different nonprofits and organizations who are using various Google tools. And I think they will do a better job than I will, so I will play this video and hopefully this will project. Let's see if I can throw this up there.
And we connect around 850 women, youth, and refugees who are living in poverty to work over the internet. When we started, I had 35 grand from a couple of business plan competitions, which is not a lot of money to start a nonprofit organization that does real work for real companies. So we needed to be really frugal in our approach to internal systems. The suite of Google products has really helped us get off the ground and not have to pay too much money to do that. One of the main things that we're dependent on is the movement of work into the cloud. And so what we've seen with the business process outsourcing industry is that more and more work can get done without having to have all of the workers in the same location. We operate in 5 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and Haiti, and we staff fellows in each of those locations on a rotating basis. And one of our biggest challenges is getting them up to speed, in less than a week on everything that's going on in that country. And so we use Google Docs to keep a live list of notes on every partner that we have that's really accessible in their Google dashboard. And each of these field associates, when they meet with a contact in let's say, Nairobi, they go into that doc and they update the notes. So the most current kind of notes are up front. And it's a really simple system, but using collaborative lists and shared information is one of the ways that nonprofits can reduce the pain of having a highly distributed organization without a lot of funding to build specialized software. Google Forms are one of the most helpful things for running an operation when you have to intake data either from staff or from external constituents, because you can aggregate data really easily into a spreadsheet without any of the manual transfer that you normally need. So we run email through Google Apps. Everybody's calendars are shared using Google Apps. We spread the word about our work through Google ad campaigns that we have a budget for thanks to a Google grant. I had no resources for hiring a developer. I had one developer who was working on our main site, so I went in and found Google Sites and set up a really quick and dirty page that served the function of getting our message out there. It saved us tens of thousands of dollars and enabled us to get off the ground really quickly at a time that was very difficult to start a nonprofit.
Like that. There we go. So some of the tools that Salesforce use that I referenced they all run on the Google Apps suite. So things like spreadsheets and Google Sites, the forms, calendar and Gmail, and then she used the AdWords platform to do some of the advertising. So another nonprofit I wanted to highlight, the Hudson Guild is a New York City nonprofit. They serve over 14,000 clients a year, but they have a staff of fewer than 100 people. So they're actually transitioned over to Google Apps, so the kind of Gmail, calendar, documents happened just a few months before Hurricane Sandy last year. We got this email from our contact. She was typing it on her mobile phone in her dark basement. She said, "We were just commenting on how lucky we are to have Google Apps. Despite the challenges, we have been in full communication throughout the storm and owe that all to Google. We were able to mobilize staff to help with food distribution and share participant emergency contact lists to check in on people. The impact on our participants has been incredible. We've spoken to peer agencies and they have lost servers and cannot communicate at all. At a tough time, we are counting our lucky stars." So take it from somebody who lived through the storm and had no power. Having the resources of something backing you up like Google's technology and still being able to run your business in a time of crisis during disaster recovery, that's really important.
Question.
Yeah.
How do you keep internet access going in a disaster situation? You know, because the first things that go down are the cell phone towers, right?
Right.
You haven't got backup.
That is probably more a question for my lovely engineering colleagues. I mean, we do have servers all over, so it's not like necessarily because a server would be down in New York City. Obviously we have that available to everybody. And I believe there were probably a few cell phone towers that made it up. I never lost cell phone service, I just had no battery. So, yeah. So another one, how am I doing on time? Do I need to?
It's 22. Over half.
All right. So I'm going to show you guys another video here. So the National Resources Defense Council, they use some of our Google tools and products to raise awareness and communication.
The Natural Resources Defense Council is one of the country's largest and most influential environmental advocacy organizations. NRDC's job is to educate the public and build support for environmental policy.
When we're thinking about how to tell a story or to get our message out, we use Google tools at every step of the way. We'll consider using Google Maps, Google Earth, or the YouTube channel to promote a video. I will then use the Google grant to help make sure that we're getting maximum visibility for what we're doing. In the past 7 years that we've had the grant, we've driven 4.7 million visits to our websites, and I think that's been an advertising value of over $2.6 million. During the first weeks of the Gulf oil disaster, NRDC used the YouTube channel to get compelling images from the Gulf region out to as many people as possible. One video that we launched, Yours Truly BP, had over 100,000 views without any paid marketing.
We've been using Google Maps and Google Earth to make vivid some of our environmental concerns. For example, which beaches are polluted and which not, how to figure out where to site energy facilities in an environmentally sound way.
One of the most profound things about Google Earth is the way that it presents gigabytes of satellite imagery to everyone. It's increased my advocacy potential by allowing me to share the data that we've collected.
The opportunity to show something visually makes it much more powerful and frankly, much more understandable.
Google products has allowed me to be far more productive and to communicate more effectively than I ever imagined.
When you're sending messages out into the world, it's hard to know whether you're having any impact, and the Google tools help us figure out whether a message is reaching our audiences.
So one thing I really like that they brought up is it's not only getting your message out, but a lot of our tools allow you to then allow you to measure what you're doing, which I think is really important to understand. You know, when you kind of step into technology and maybe you do something like a video campaign and you put a video on YouTube, you don't really know how it's resonating with people. We have a lot of tools, YouTube Analytics being one, that kind of allow you to see, do people actually like this video? Are they interacting with it? The same with advertising, measure that. So I think that's something you can also keep in mind. It's not so much just a blind step in the dark, but you can also see, you know, how it's actually resonating and actually affecting change for your organization. So I told you I really love the Khan Academy. So YouTube is another way to carry out your organization's mission. So this wasn't just putting videos out there to talk about the organization, it was actually teaching through video. Like I said, the Khan Academy started as just a small series of videos for Sal Khan's niece. It's grown into a huge collection, and now it's actually kind of changed the way that some K through 12 school systems are teaching. So they flipped the classroom. The children will go home and watch some of these videos and do the lesson on their own time. Then when they come back into the classroom with the teacher, they do the homework there, so that the teacher can facilitate the problem solving, they can work with other students. And then it's much easier for the teacher to know, does this child really get this lesson, or are they really struggling with the homework? So bringing this technology in the classroom to really change the way that these children are learning, just all thanks to a few videos on YouTube.
Meredith?
Yes.
Do you know, are other educators allowed to upload on Khan Academy? Or sort of, if you can do the...
Right now, the Khan Academy has their own like videographers and their own curriculum now. It's grown into kind of an organized thing, and they actually have a whole platform outside YouTube. But in general, when you own the YouTube channel, you can't really invite other people to upload at will. They would have to have access to your YouTube channel to start uploading videos.
I guess what I'm thinking is, could the World Affairs Council have a Khan Academy to teach global issues? And if we have the little tablets and we as the educators that could do is zapping replicated just for other content areas?
I think in the form of a partnership, it's absolutely a possibility. And I believe, is it Bank of America, I think, partnered with Khan Academy very recently to start doing like finance courses, personal finance and accounting. And so through that partnership, I'm sure that's how the link happened and they're able to upload the videos. But I think that's a brilliant idea for a partnership. The MOOCs as well, so the Coursera's, the Udacity's, I think they also present an opportunity to have a platform that's reaching millions of people that are trying to learn, not just children, but adults as well. I mean, I can go on and take, a Western science course if I wanted to for free. And so I think that presents an interesting partnership idea as well. Sticking with the education theme. So Carnegie Mellon used YouTube to just project a message. And I think this is really interesting, the power of video just to kind of get information about your organization across. So this is Professor Randy Posh, and in 2007 he delivered a speech called Really Achieving Your Childhood Dreams. And he was about 47 years old and he was dying of pancreatic cancer. And he just delivered a lecture to, I think, about 500 students on campus, but they videotaped it, put it on YouTube, and it just became a crazy success. So you see here, at the time of this screenshot, it had 16 million views all over the world. So people that have maybe never even heard of Carnegie Mellon, had never been to Pittsburgh, didn't know anything about the school. And CMU is actually a research school, so it doesn't necessarily have the touchy-feely vibe. But I think just having this video up there really changed all that. And again, totally free, they just uploaded it, put absolutely no advertising dollars behind it, and it became a movement on its own. Now, Universal Technical Institute is actually a for-profit university, but I think this case study that we published is really interesting. We also have a tool called Website Optimizer, again, free. And what it does is allows you to kind of test different attributes on your website. So they tested different calls to action, different videos, different photos, buttons, different colors, all to see what website gave people the best experience and made them request information about their school. That's all they want. They just want your email address so that they can send you more information. So they actually had, once they decided on the final website, they had a 300% increase in conversion rate. So meaning 300% increase in the number of people that actually inquired for more information. So I think this is really impressive when you think about how this could help a website drive more donations, increase volunteer signups, just get more inquiries about participating, partnerships. And again, it's just a simple testing tool that allows you to make your website better looking and a better experience. Last one from the education space, I promise. So Deakin University is actually a university in Australia, but they did something really cool on our Google Plus platform. They decided to have a debate series, and for their first debate that was hosted via a Hangout on Air. Has anyone used a Hangout on Air before? So in Google Plus, you can bring 10 people into what essentially is almost a chat room, but it's a video conference. So you have 10 people talking to each other, asking questions. You can actually get kind of submissions from the audience, but only 10 people actually speaking at a time. The great thing is, when it's a Hangout on Air, it automatically records it and uploads it to YouTube for you. So you don't have to go to the trouble of having somebody with a video camera to then upload it later, worry about the sound, worry about the video quality. It does it automatically, and it's available on YouTube for anyone to see. So they started this debate series with a bang, and they actually got the Prime Minister of Australia to participate and allowed kind of students and members of the community to ask her questions during this series. Later on, of course, it was automatically uploaded to YouTube so that anyone could later see, first of all, that the Prime Minister was doing a debate, and second of all, that it was affiliated with Deakin University, which is, I think, a really impressive move for a school.
You couldn't just use that for one of your forums that you had, you just have the person there doing the recording and upload that? You know what I mean? Not necessarily use it for a chat, but use it for the recording on the internet.
Absolutely. I mean, you could technically have a one-person hangout and then use that as the recording thing. I think the interaction is what makes it pretty interesting, so you can have people pose questions and have a question-and-answer dialogue. But there's no reason you couldn't use that as kind of the recording capability as well. Yeah, all free.
You know how the flow of the conversation is managed? Like, does one person decide who's talking next, or how's that work?
We've used these all the time at work to actually communicate with people during different offices. There's an art to it, I would say, a little bit, but usually you can pick one person to have a moderator. They also have mute capability, so if, for example, somebody's in an office and I hear a lot of background noise, I'll kind of mute them while somebody else is asking a question. So I would say it ends up flowing pretty naturally. If you have great broadband connection, there's no delay, so you're really hearing kind of people asking their questions and responding in real time. So I'd say it's pretty smooth.
Yeah, just the option not to have it go online.
So what you could then do is just a Hangout, which is just the video conference in the experience of the video conference, and it doesn't get uploaded. Yeah, that's something that we struggle with internally. It goes to YouTube as public, and sometimes you just want to have a conversation that is not shared. So that's just the Hangouts option.
Is that still recorded though? Or-
Don't believe so. I can check on that. I think it's just the Hangouts on air option that gives the recording.
And are these apps that you pay for?
This is Google Plus. It's totally free. You as just a person can have your own profile on Google Plus. Your organization can have a profile and then use that in tandem with your YouTube channel. Yes.
this is a lot of info, but if I access Hangout or Optimizer, how do you tell me how to use it? Or do I need someone who's really into it? Is there a step-by-step?
So I would say there's kind of a few different things that you could use. I mean, we certainly have tons of product kind of documentation for every product that's written up by our technical writers and kind of walks you through different steps. There's a lot of videos that I think are particularly helpful. So you can literally have somebody walking you through step by step instead of reading it. And then there are a lot of product forums where you can, this happens a lot for AdWords, where you can actually input a question and you meet people that have been working on a product for 5 years, and they'll kind of input their say, and usually there's a Google moderator in a lot of those forums kind of jumping in and saying, yes, that's a definitive answer. So I'd say those are 3 things that really kind of help set you on the way for a lot of those product questions. Yes?
What kind of speed do you need in order to make this work? Internet speed.
Again,
You said if you have enough spread.
I wish I had an engineer here. For example, in my own apartment, I have Wi-Fi through Time Warner cable. It's like the most basic package you can get as a consumer. I can access all of this, and it's fine. I can
Hangout
download.
also?
Yep, I can do Hangouts from home as well. Yeah. Yes.
For a lot of the World Affairs Council, we're not trying to reach the world. We're trying to reach a specific community. Can you talk a little bit about how the product was targeted? I'd like to run an ad, but I don't need it to go much beyond Northern Michigan. So people are going to come from Philadelphia.
So, yeah. So the localization of things, it depends a little bit on the products. For example, YouTube is something that's accessible to anybody in the world. And so when you upload a video, it's pretty much just out there. When you're talking about advertising though, and you are actually using dollars and you want to be very specific about where your advertising goes, you can get very, very targeted. So you could pick a city and say, we only want to advertise to people who are in this city. I only want to advertise to people in this zip code. You can get very, very specific about location, about the language they speak, things like that. Yes.
And that could be one of these programs that you're talking about for nonprofits?
Yep, that's the AdWords for Nonprofits program. Yeah. Cool, I call this dialogue. Yes.
How much of your day is spent on a mobile device or in front of a screen, would you say?
This is actually very depressing. I would say, let's say I sleep 7 hours, so that's 7 hours that I'm not using a screen. But literally, that's all. I work in front of a computer all day. I have my mobile device. I don't even consider myself particularly like techie. And when I walk into my own living room, I have a Chromebook, a laptop, a tablet, a mobile phone, and an internet-capable television. So I'm pretty sure it's going to do something to my brainwaves any day now, but it's amazing. And it's not something that I even consider anymore. It's just, I need a piece of information and I look it up on my phone, or I need to contact somebody and I send them an email. So, yeah, but a pretty sad amount.
Is Google doing any, or do you know of any research on the impact that kind of a lifestyle has on that? I know, I'm just
I
curious
hope
about
so.
kids, so I'm like trying to figure this
I hope
out.
so. I don't know Google specifically. I'm sure, I know there are people that, of course, they've talked a lot about having a cell phone to your ear, so now everyone has the kind of devices, or in your car, you have the speaker device, but we can put in a request. I think it's a good idea. As we put on all these products, is this doing good or bad for me?
Meredith, you mentioned the art of doing this. I think this particular example resonates with our council network because of the professional language, the conversation that this puts together. How has video changed in terms of bite-sized lengths and the kind of interaction you want to respect? And finally, what you might take from real time to share later to get views?
Yeah. So the question around video, I think it's really interesting, and we kind of use what we see on YouTube as just the proxy for online video. It kind of spans the gamut. So I've seen everything from very short 2-minute how-to videos, how to fix my kitchen sink, how to write a book, how to, fix my Excel table, to even very long-form, creative, like TV type series on online video. That's specifically like Netflix, but we're also seeing that kind of content on YouTube. And then everything in between. I see a lot of, again, I use the schools as an example. I see a lot of user-generated content, which we mean is kind of like not very professionally done video. It's not shot very well, but it's just uploaded. It may be somebody talking about, I really like this professor, I really like this school. Or I see a lot of like, here's a campus tour, here's a city tour. And then very professionally shot informational type videos. Specifically to the Hangouts, I think we're seeing more and more of this being done because it's just, I think you referenced it earlier, it's not enough to be in a room and have a speaker come and talk to people. It's great for the people in that room, but what about everybody else that would find that information valuable? So tools like the Google Hangouts on air that then puts that as an online video for consumption later, I think that is huge. And I actually have one more example that I think also shows. Our own President Obama did a Hangout on air to address questions about the State of the Union address. So talk about the ultimate communication. I mean, these people were able to talk one-on-one, although it wasn't face-to-face, but it was over video, with the President of the United States, ask questions. And then, of course, this gets uploaded later, so say you missed it or you weren't able to be a part of that, small video conference of 10, you can see it all later. And how fascinating to be able to get that insight from the president on demand, whatever you want. Yes.
I'm struggling to figure out how any of this would apply to my local World Affairs Council branch. So maybe with Hangout on Air, we could tape one of our speakers at one of our monthly meetings, and then perhaps some of the audience questions that come in. The speeches tend to be 45 to 60 minutes long. How long can a Hangout on Air be?
There's no time limit for a Hangout on Air. I wouldn't even necessarily say you need the Hangout part. If it's something that truly is being filmed within a room, film it as you can film it on a mobile device even, or a video camera, and just upload that to YouTube later. And that way it's, you're able to show the fruits of your labor and extend that beyond who was just in the room. So I think that's also an application.
Meredith, can I build a bridge too?
Absolutely.
So I'm intrigued, and I think that there are a lot of people in the room who are seeing bits and pieces of some of these products and how they could possibly tie in with some of the work that we do at our councils. And the Hangout on Air has me specifically thinking about something that we do at the Pittsburgh Council. We do a lot of video conferencing because all of the schools in Allegheny County and in the city of Pittsburgh have Polycom units. They have these very expensive video conferencing units, and they're under some pressure to use them. At the same time, well, they are. There's some schools where they're locked up in a cabinet, these are super expensive, and we can't let anybody touch them. And then there are other schools that are saying, wait a minute, we have this $12,000 to $15,000 resource and we're not using it adequately. We at the World Affairs Council have been able to help them with content for that. And this has come at the same time as there have been cutbacks in schools where school kids are not able to use buses, or schools are not able to get substitute teachers, so that it's more and more difficult for us to do some of our big events where you've got a high school auditorium full of 500 kids from 6 or 7 different schools. So what we've been doing is using this video conferencing capability to connect schools throughout southwestern Pennsylvania with schools across the Commonwealth, across the country, and around the world. And so most recently, we had a conversation with about 6 schools in southwestern Pennsylvania, a school just outside of Philadelphia, a school in Texas, and a school in Pakistan, a school in Brazil, and a school in Taiwan. And we had a speaker who was physically in Pittsburgh at one of the schools with us and you're right, there is an art to moderating when you have 6, 7, 8 different video conferencing sites. But what's interesting about this for me in terms of the application of it is I might be able to find a policy expert who's sitting in Washington, D.C., who's got the backdrop that President Obama has behind him, or some, his bookshelves or her bookshelves behind him in his office, and connect that person with one of these video conferences, which means that I don't have to fly somebody into this country. I don't have to spend the overnight for them for a 45-minute video conference and discussion with students. So I think that there could be some interesting ways of using some of this technology in some of the programming that some of us are already engaged in, and that can certainly be expanded throughout the network. I mean, there's no reason why some of these video conferences that we're doing couldn't include some schools and some
Steve, also on that same point, we struggle with that with an ambassador level position. What if once a month I brought in some think tank type person or President Obama, and those 12 people who are my ambassador level members get to interact with? That's a special benefit to that level.
Hey, I'm Ben. I'm one of Meredith's colleagues at Google as well. And one thing that we see a lot of these groups have big challenges with is marketing. Right? You want to give people in your households who are presumably interested in world affairs, but what about that specific event? How do you get them excited about that? If you had a really outstanding event with a great speaker beforehand, you can take the YouTube video that you uploaded before. It's very easy to edit those into a really small clip. So if you just have a 1-minute clip that's really exciting from that last event, you can put that right in your email that you send to your members and say, hey, look at this really great event that we did before. Or you could even post that on a Facebook page or send it on a tweet or anything. All of these types of technologies work together really well. So there's a lot of marketing potential by recording this type of stuff.
Yeah. Thank you guys. That was the end of my examples, but I certainly don't want to suggest that it stops there. Google has so many products that nobody could even presume to know them all and be able to work with them all. I mean, there's Blogger, there's G+. We didn't even touch on things like chat. But I would really encourage you first to even kind of get a flavor for what's out there, to go to the nonprofits. There's a ton of more case studies and examples of how organizations have used some of the different tools, so more of the videos like we saw. This is where you would actually apply and then start enrolling in the different programs. And again, you may decide that YouTube is really going to be the most beneficial, and that's really where you're going to get your message out there. Or maybe you think a Google Plus page is going to be the best way to interact with prospective new organization members. Or you may decide that you really want to go ahead and start putting some advertising behind it and enroll in the AdWords program. But this, I think, will be the best resource for you to start with. Yes?
Do you or any of your colleagues do house calls?
We don't really, but imagine, we could probably do some video conferences.
Use Hangouts.
Yes.
Well, you're talking to this group of World Affairs Councils. Are there other nonprofits that are similar to us that we could also learn some best practices?
Similar in, like, the world affairs interest, or
organization or similar type of mission?
I've got a few. So the Brookings Institution does this really well.
Great.
So Brookings records everything they do. And they have a huge production staff there. But honestly, with the video camera like we have in the back of the room right now, and being able to upload it to YouTube, any council could do this. So examples, I'd say Brookings is a great example. Council on Foreign Relations also does this stuff really well. I'm trying to think, Cato Institute, I've seen some videos there. American Enterprise Institute. I think if you're going to look at two, though, start with Brookings and then go to the Council on Foreign Relations, because they never have an event where it's just someone sitting on stage in just a room. They always are spreading it out by video and other places.
I guess I can give a little background lessons learned issue. We started by using the local public television as our way to learn how to do a video and how you very gladly said that they have a huge production staff, which none of these World Affairs Councils do probably. So it's very tricky to find someone who can do the editing and make it into a package that you want to put online. That's step number one. Now, I have an advantage in that I have a 16-year-old daughter. She taught me that Facebook is passé, and so skip that and go right to Tumblr, etc. But and I would recommend one thing that you do online, and that is put in Google the words, verb now, John Green, Syria. John Green, Syria. And John Green will give you less than 4 minutes on what's happening in Syria right now. The reason I use that is the students do that. If they're going to have a class on Syria, they go to something called Vlogbrothers. John Green is one of the Vlogbrothers. And they watch 4 minutes, so they act like they know something. But actually, you'll find that it's very tight, and it's the competition is the way I see it. It's what you're up against if you're going to try to attract young people to your events, because that's what they've become used to, that foreign policy as a form of entertainment is not what we're used to, not what I'm used to. So a 40-minute lecture, we just had a hostage, an Iran hostage, but we did fill the auditorium, and we used Twitter to bring in the questions. So it can be done, but you need somebody who's about 18 years old.
Interns, you get interns. Vocologists.
Yes.
I was going to say, we webcast all of our programs, so but we use live stream instead of YouTube. I don't know if there's, the benefit to live stream is we pay $45 a month. We have this channel that our video goes through whenever we do a program, it records it immediately. So that's an option that is pretty low cost. We just pay a guy $250. He's got the right camera, and there's some administrative costs, but we don't have anyone that has any expertise in any of that. That's been a good tool for us, and it can be something you offer your council members whenever. We're in Columbus, but I know. In fact, we just had one 2 days ago, and Orange County was promoting it in California, and so was Minnesota. So it's one more program without having to do anything.
I can save you $45. YouTube does live stream for free if you're registered with the nonprofit program. Yeah.
I love it. I'm buying dinner.
Yeah, so the lady who asked about the Hangouts on air versus recording, the live stream is also a possibility. So, if you're not in the room caching the speaker, make sure that you're live streaming it outside. Yes?
Well, my question I think might be kind of related to your comment. Our World Affairs Council partners with our local library district, which has their own film editing department. And so they will provide us with a link, but they upload it to Vimeo. And so is there a way to have these other sites where can you get it to interface with YouTube so you can create your own, or something? Is that making sense?
So, and I'm perhaps missing something. I always think of YouTube as the first platform and then sharing it from YouTube because that's very easy to do. Right. Bringing it into YouTube from I don't know. But it's certainly possible if you have a YouTube channel where you upload all of your videos, you can link out to anything, a website, a Twitter feed, a Facebook profile. And it's just a link, so it's not really, content's not necessarily embedded. There's also some gadgets on YouTube that do kind of bring in things like, having your live tweets as a gadget. I would have to double check on what that's usually something that we charge advertisers for on YouTube, but for the nonprofits program, I'm not sure if that would be something that could be brought in for free, but that would be a gadget option.
We did Vimeo as well for the reason of we weren't able to upload to YouTube anything of length, but I think if you have a channel though, then that changes your limits.
Yeah. Well, and then too, we have the complicating factor. The video is good because they have a whole film editing and, videography department, but it's theirs. So,
You mentioned several features, sites, spreadsheets, docs, all that. I'm familiar with, but do you have an app that would help us replace our donor and membership database?
So my initial thought is like a spreadsheet of some sort to house all of that information. And it would probably be a more manual process trying to bring that in. That's something I would have to check on. Trying to get like an API feed or something like that to bring it all in. Nothing off the top of my head. We don't have like a Salesforce type product or anything like that right now.
We use Google Forms for feedback. So I was wondering if you use Google Forms to take member registration and then somehow remove the duplicates or?
Yeah, if you're starting from scratch, definitely, that's an amazing option. The forms, what happens is you send out a link to a form, people fill out, they can do choices or fill out text, my name is Meredith Clark, here's my address, I'm interested in learning more. And that populates in a Google spreadsheet, which then you can go back and edit, but it's all very cleanly done, so it's all in the correct columns and so on and so forth. So starting from scratch with a membership list, that would be ideal. Yeah.
One final question. How does Google make money? If all of this stuff is free, what is your model?
We make most of the bulk of our money from our advertisers. So them paying to advertise their businesses on search and display and even on YouTube. So yeah.
So the more of us you get coming in free, the more eyes are there and the higher you can charge advertisers.
So it's actually an auction model, which is pretty cool. So we don't really have tiers of anything except a few YouTube things. But it's based on an auction, so it's pretty fair. But yeah, ideally, the more people that are on our properties using our tools, exactly, the more eyeballs for advertisers. So it's kind of a nice little symbiotic relationship that we have. Yeah. Yes.
Earlier in your presentation, you talked about breaking down boundaries across channels. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so the channels that I'm specifically referring to are like, how do you reach your audience across, not just video, online, offline, even on the phone. So I think having a really consistent web presence allows you to do that. I always think if you're not online, I probably don't know about you, and that's specifically to me because I'm lazy. I won't even go into a store anymore. Literally, I couldn't tell you the last time I went shopping. Everything is online. So having things like a website where I can get more information, even if you have a telephone number, that's fine too, because I'm on my mobile device. But just being able to share across different channels of information, and if you have a website, can I access it on my mobile phone, or does it look really kind of buggy? So things like that, just having, I would say, the consistent presence where people can find you in a lot of different places. And that goes to social media as well, for example.
So one final question from Bill.
Yeah, to get to that point, I've struggled with this locally in World Boston. I'm thinking about a national network of 93 councils. Google is the biggest archive in the world. And we have a lot of content out here that is in little silos in our content areas, but could be assembled and accessed and shared, and also give not just a one-off speaker kind of experience, but a speaker may travel, and we can track that person's views over time. What is a really artful way at the national office, perhaps, where we can amass this and present it simply, fast, and engaging, right?
So my question would be, is that to just the councils as kind of an internal, almost how-to?
Useful for us, useful for schools, but anybody that comes to the World Affairs Councils of America's website could go to our archives and find Minnesota, Alaska, Pittsburgh as well. So that we collect it all, and that it's there for our use, but
new audiences that we want to go.
So I think the struggle that also stems from trying to keep consistency across channels. So my immediate reaction and thought is website, and using things like Google Apps where you can have something on your own domain, but use our like Google Sites tools, and then even Google Drive that links in there. So for example, say you've uploaded a lot of different documents, having that access but tied to the website. Also tying and maybe even pulling in your YouTube videos so it's also visible on the website. To me, and again, this may just be my personal thing, I like the cleanliness and organization of a website. Another organization may find they don't need their own website, and having everything on a more social platform like Google Plus or maybe Facebook might be a better option for them. But I think, to me, like the professional look and feel in the organization is something really done on a website, and then using the background of Google Drive where you can upload shared documents, upload shared videos. That to me is best presented in that format. Again, kind of hard, it's not to say that's the best way, but I think that it seems like the most organized and logical fashion.
Well, Meredith, thank you. This has been